So I
Oh,
met you at the expo,
yeah.
and then I asked you. Do you remember? I asked you, "Where's Greg?" Because Greg made like 400 videos about me in a week, but I didn't see Greg anywhere, but I saw you. So we
Yeah.
we had a good talk, and then we
Yeah.
posted that picture online,
Yeah.
and then in my DM was full with a video you took away. Do you want to
I
play that clip? You got a clip.
play it. Play the clip.
Play it.
Play
Play
the
the
clip.
clip. All right, here we go.
Like, you will get caught. So let it happen. So don't go and try to make it happen. Just go let it happen. Let God do his thing. Is he an activist? Were they a hand of God? No, the dude that released his emails is a snitch
There you go.
and a POS.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, I got some of y'all that I like there that we're cool with, but just like it took me 5-6 videos to say something about this shit, I decided what I'm gonna say to the world about how I feel about this shit and what happened.
So I got this in my inbox. I'm like,
That's
oh,
awesome.
I'm like, wow. I mean, I met Johnny at the expo, and we had such a nice talk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what happened with this video? Why did you have to take it offline?
Okay, so I took it. So this is like the story doesn't change.
Yeah.
I took it offline because what people wanted just blood. Like people didn't want to hear anything else, but Liver King is a piece of shit. Period.
Yeah.
Like that's all. It's all everyone. No one. Like if you came out with anything but Liver King was a cheater, stole money, whatever. If you said anything but that, they were not hearing the other part of it. So when every time I do like a video, I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna do this, like if I'm gonna clout chase a bit here and jump in with the bandwagon, like how we can like make a learning point about this, or at least see like both sides of things. You know what I mean? So I try to
offer a bit of a different perspective for everybody.
Like, exactly. So I'm like, here's my perspective on this. What I truly believe is like, look, I'm not gonna release anyone's stuff of anybody's, regardless, like period. And that's how I feel. But I still believe Liver King, period, is a piece of whatever, and obviously lied and deserves everything he got.
Right.
But no one was hearing that. They're all hearing like, well, you condone a liar then? I'm like, no, I didn't say that. I'm like, oh, all right, let me just take this down and say it again. I have to come off saying like, all right, listen, guys.
Yeah.
I do believe the Liver King is a liar and deserves everything. But I still, it was like, so yeah. So, and this is also before even knowing this is, I did this video before Nick. So I'm watching Nick Trigili, like he's like doctor. The guy's a detective.
He pieced it together in like 4 or 5 days. You got to give him credit because
as soon as I saw his thing, because I knew we'd have, because I talked to him, like I know he's always up to something. He's like, look around.
He was in my inbox too. Steve, what's going on? Dude, give me the full story.
So that video was out and back. You understand? I put the video out, and then the next morning did the second video. That was put out before even knowing. Like, by the way, it might be Vigorous Steve. I'm like, huh? And I'm watching his. I'm like, this guy's going back to. They both had emails that tracked that he had surgery and he was in this time zone. I'm like, this guy's a genius. Yeah. So, and then when it came out, I'm like, okay, cool. I still don't like, it's still how it is, but like I get it. Redacted.
It's still a touchy subject. So you raised some concerns in Jose Raymond. Right before we met at the Flex Lewis after party, Jose Raymond was really laying into me like, hey, what happened there? Because Jose is a straight shooter, right? So normally, of course, I don't do this kind of stuff. I mean, otherwise, the hundreds of people that I helped previously would have been concerned also. But this is a bit of a tricky, unique situation where, I sat on that for 1.5 years, right? And I didn't say anything to anybody. Well, my wife knew, but she was like, just forget about it. And then, you see this guy go around just trying to make it worse for educators like me and Derek and people who really try to promote health, especially for people who take PEDs. Like, okay, check your cholesterol, check your organs, do your blood work, do this, do that, do that. And, this Liver King persona just started getting worse and worse and worse and tried to deviate from what we really should be doing is stay on top of our health, right? And then at one point I told Derek, I said, listen, I got this like over a year ago, And he was like, oh man, he couldn't believe it because I sat on it for over a year, right? And then he started digging and he got some more info out of his own inbox. And, so at one point I said, you know what, redact the emails. I give you permission to use it for, to expose the guy, to give him an opportunity to finally come clean and end it. Because I think at one point he started believing it himself.
Yeah.
Well, that's how bad it got.
So the question for me, like, because I'm like, I like timelines. You know what I mean? For me, like, so you know the answer. No, I don't really care. But I'm so when he contacted you, was he at the beginning stages of creating the Liver King? Because like what I'm really kind of make a joke about is like the dude is probably marketing genius. Like what he said in those emails followed through. Like and that's like
we accomplished him way more than he set out to, because he wanted.
I want to get this at March in March of 2022 and whatever. And it's like I know what that takes. Like this guy's like putting into paid ads and like he's paying marketing to make sure he's keyworded somewhere. Liver King is a keyword. And I'm like, this guy's orchestrated this shit. You know what I mean? So when he came to you, where was he at? He was at that beginning stage of like, I'm gonna. He
was
in
the beginning stage. He just started his Instagram page.
You're like, I don't know this liver who Brian Johnson.
I thought it was interesting, like usually I work with guys that are highly motivated, because my advice that I usually give is quite expensive, the blood work and organ imaging and additional stuff. I mean, not everybody can afford to follow up on the advice that I give. And so I saw that he was financially secure. He was highly driven, a couple red flags, but I figured, maybe with time we can see through that, or maybe he'll open up a little bit more, because I didn't believe the cycle that he gave to me, right? That was in the email. I'm like, man, it doesn't make sense at all. So maybe he needs a little bit more time to open up about what he's doing. Okay, that happens, right? Anyway, so I took him on, and we had a little bit of miscommunication, right? And it took me some time to finish the program, and it took some time for him to get back to me. The communication wasn't really there, and whether that's because he was super busy, because he did reach that goal of over 1 million followers, with way shorter than he expected. I mean, he had exactly a timeline, and he reached it far beyond. I mean, that's the business mind of the guy. I just saw that as he got more popular, the statements were getting more bold. And is that for marketing, or is that because he started believing the hype, or because the lie took a life of its own? It's so confusing to me, because all the bodybuilders that I know, they try to keep it as real as possible, man.
But the thing is, because it's like at one point, no one's claiming whatever for him to have to lie anyway, right? Like it's only lying when somebody asks you. And then you're lying. I mean, in that terms of like lying publicly, right? Like, so if no one ever claimed that he was doing this naturally, he'd be fine with what he's even doing with you, coming with you, right? Like, if he was like, hey, I'm doing this to just, I want to create a physique, whatever, but I'm definitely not promoting I'm doing this only naturally, then you're like, yeah, cool. You don't really see it, but like,
I don't have an issue with that aspect, because I mean, I help quite a few fake natties, but they come to me because they're unhealthy, because they kept that image going for so long. They don't know who to go to. So they get into the steroid education isn't there, because again, they claim natty. So who can they really talk to? And then their lipids go horrible, or they get issues with their liver or heart issues, right? They contact me to help fix them. Okay. I don't condone what they're doing, but at least they're trying to get healthy. At least they follow up with the advice that I give them. And unfortunately, the same can't be said for Brian, because I told him that he needed to make some serious changes.
Yeah.
And he, and after coaching bodybuilders for such a long time, you see the red flags right away. Oh, I feel fine. I gotta, keep going. And I'm like, dude, I can't have this again in my life, So that's why I let him go. So after 2 or 3 weeks of working together, and he just continued on his own. And I saw that whole brand kind of explode. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. He'll address his own issues at one point, because you can't stay saucy for years on end. I mean, he looks better now than he did back then. Yeah. So and myself and Paul Saladino, which when he released his statement, Paul was like, was also very concerned for his health. So it's a very common issue with coaches being very concerned for their clients about their health. Yeah. And the athlete is kind of like,
I get it. Well, I'm, IFBB pro, like, so I get it. I understand that. Yeah. Myself, like, for me, is like, what are they like when because I have clients and whatnot. So when I have like a questionnaire and we do like not necessarily like a screening, but they'll book a consult and we'll talk 1-to-1. And I'll be able to see both of them. Both of us will be able to see, is this going to be a fit regardless? And for me, red flags are like, there's some easy mental health red flags. You can see like that I see screaming from him before even being exposed. Like, I'm just like, that looks a little insecure to me. You know what I mean? When you're that hypersensitive or obsessed and driven for that, I got to work out 2 times a day to feel good. It's like, that doesn't make logical sense. So that's an obsession.
On the other hand, how much of it is real and how much is it fabricated?
Yeah,
the image of Liver King, I mean, I think, I'm not really sure if he started believing the hype, did he actually think that it's all real? But I think half of it comes from the marketing team. Because when you go back in the timeline, you look at it, how he started, and it was a little bit more genuine than what it turned into.
Yeah. So how real is, like, how close do you believe, like, because there's a Liver King and then there's Brian Johnson. So like right now, how much are we seeing Brian Johnson and how much are we seeing Liver King? Because you've met and kind of known
I mean, he was already pretty out there when we talked, but still nice conversation, nice guy to talk to. And again, I've helped many guys in a similar position with a similar demeanor, and they usually go quite far in life. But yeah, from what I remember from our call 1.5 years ago, I mean, he was a lot more laid back than now. Now it's like WWE.
Yeah.
It's like wrestling now. And I find it works. I mean, Rich Piana made a huge image out of himself as well, right? I mean, he started somewhere and then he turned into this cartoon character, this larger than life cartoon character, and started doing all kinds of weird protocols at the expo to be super, super large. And that ultimately did him in. And he didn't stop either. He didn't stop with the PEDs.
Is there a direct correlation with your growth and your overall mental and physical health? Like,
I would say that it's that probably one goes up and the other one goes down, because you see that over and over again with people in the fitness industry. The more popular they get, the more miserable they are also.